Yeah.
Okay, I'm calling now the November 3rd regular business meeting to order. We have already done the pledge to the flag, so we will not do that. Kate, would you do the roll call again, though, please?
Councilman Coleman.
Here.
Councilman Allen. Here. Councilman Paddock.
Here.
Councilman Stacy. Here. Supervisor Davis.
Here. First resolution, the town board accepts the agenda as prepared by the town supervisor. There are two additions tonight. One is I'm asking you to sign a voucher for General Code, which is the company that hosts our online town code. It was accidentally left out of the last vouchers. And then secondarily, I'm asking, I prepared budget amendments for general and highway that I had not planned on being able to get done for tonight, and I did. So I'd like to add those two agenda items.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the first is a resolution regarding seeker for local law number 9 of 2022, which is the tax cap. The recommended resolution is the town of Rochester classifies local law 9 of 2022 as a type 2 action for the purposes of seeker review, and no further review is required.
I'll make that motion.
One second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Councilman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Allen. Aye. Councilman Paddock.
Aye.
Councilman Stacy. Aye. Supervisor Davis.
Aye. Next, I'd like to have a discussion on local law 9. That is for us to override the tax cap. We must adopt it prior to us adopting the budget. I put it on the agenda tonight. If the board feels, if we adopt it and we don't override the budget, it just goes away. So it's sort of no harm, no foul if we do adopt it.
But
So
we don't have to put a specific dollar amount.
No. we do not. We're just, what it would be is adopting local law number 9, which allows the town board to exceed the tax cap. So if somebody wants to make that resolution, I'll make the resolution
Okay.
to adopt local law 9 of 2022, allowing the town of Rochester Town Board to exceed the New York State tax cap for the tax year 2022.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, discussion on the preliminary budget. I'm going to turn it over to the board members. If you have anything you'd like to say, if you want to add any, contributions to the discussion. I would ask in that tonight is the 3rd, and we have another 2 weeks that we consider not adopting it tonight, and we consider looking at it on our own, and any changes we maybe potentially want to bring to the table. We can either do a special meeting or we can do it at our workshop meeting on the 16th. So that's my opinion. But if anybody else has anything they want to bring to the table. Okay,
Well,
go ahead.
you go ahead. Okay, I heard the public, I understand that a lot of people are hit on hard times. I also don't make very much money. I make under what most of our town employees make also, running my own business. And I hear that, and I hear thinking about pay increases and thinking about the overall what people are going through. I would say that as a town board member, I do feel like the position of supervisor should get a market adjustment. I would like to see that happen this year because I believe the position has been under salary for years. It is not something that I would vote to do multiple years in a row. The position has always been either at a stagnant salary or has gotten the typical pay increase that other town employees have gotten. And so that is why if the public were to go back and watch the YouTube videos of our meetings. I did speak to this at the initial meeting where we did speak about the salary as being not a pay raise. And also no offense to Supervisor Baden, but it's, in my opinion, it's not about him. It's about the position and the sustainability of the position and honestly attracting more people who are interested in running for public office and for taking on that role. It isn't out of line with the proposal isn't out of line with some of the other towns. We also did attempt to have a pay analysis done for Ulster County, and there was no connection between median household income, budget, or population and the supervisor salary line. Some towns have fewer population and pay the supervisor $61,000 a year. Other towns have a much higher population and pay it like way less. But there are also more staff in those cases as well. So I feel that it should be more as a market adjustment, not as a pay increase, not as a bonus, not even on necessarily, though I do think Supervisor Baden puts in a lot of time and works full-time hours. I would like to see future supervisors consider this a full-time job as well. So, and as a town board, we have the authority to make those decisions. So I would also say that I'm, willing to decrease the town board salary further. We might be able to make further cuts, but the general fund, which the supervisor's salary comes out of, is below. It's below. The tax levy is below what it was last year. So we're not increasing by adding any of the things we're doing. We're also giving 6% raise to all the employees because we're trying to recognize how difficult it is with 8% inflation this year. We are not increasing the tax levy for the general fund expenses. So there isn't an increase there. There's an increase in highway and there's an increase in funding.
I also would like to say I did hear the public tonight. I work in social services. I run a food pantry. I'm on the front line and understand how people have been affected by the times that are going on. I have more deaths at my food pantry than I have ever had before 2020 in the hundreds of families a month. So I understand and get everyone's point, but to agree with Councilman Allen, the general fund where supervisor saving salary and the supervisor salary comes out of is under the tax levy, lower than it was last year. We worked very hard on all aspects of the budget, including everyone's salary, to make sure people were getting a decent increase to try to cope with what's going on with inflation and with the times we live in. I do hear you out, and I think if we decide to not fully discuss things tonight, we can discuss it on the 16th, and we'll be negotiating, find somebody else in the budget where we can have things back. But it does need a market adjustment, as Wayne pointed out. The position has been on a raise for 5 years, a 5-year gap of any pay increase for the position, and it does need a market adjustment. So I hear you all, and I am taking everyone's comments.
And again, it's, the best thing we can get is public comment, whether it's for or against, it's been said that decisions aren't made by the majority. It's made by the majority that shows up. that, we're grateful for those of you that take the time to come out and voice your opinions. You know, a couple of the things that I got from Roxanne Blanchard when she talked about, you know, cost of living increases this year going up 4 to 5%. The vast majority of our budget that had increases around salary was the total asset of all the employees, which is averaging about a 6% increase. That has a lot to do with not only the inflation, which I think we did a nice job giving a bump up, but these positions that were devalued, way under market value. They're never going to be at market value. I think one of the things people have to understand is when you work for a municipality, and especially when you're an elected official, you're not going to make what your skills can bring on the open market. And that's a shame, but it's also the board's job to make sure that the taxpayers are represented in that. So if somebody's making $17 an hour working for us, they could probably drive to Kingston and make 22. They could probably go somewhere else. They choose to do it here. We try and do our very best to take care of them, but we try and balance that out with what the taxpayer pays. I would also say this is, you know, Lorraine said, you know, that the cost of living is going up, that she said electric, she said gas for your car. She said so many things. That's true for the vast majority of our employees as well. It's not, while it's not unique to the residents, and we have to be cognizant of that. And I think, you know, I think we did that in many cases here. When it comes specifically though to the supervisor's salary, again, you know, this is a market adjustment. I don't want to get into an economics class or anything like that. It's not pertinent. But for many, many years, the supervisor's position didn't take a raise. So if a person was making $20 an hour, they made $20 an hour year over year, and then after 5 years took a 3% raise, they'd be making $20.60. But if they took a 3% raise every one of those years, by year number 5, they'd be making almost $24 an hour. So it's the fact that position wasn't funded for so long. That this is not about Mike, but this is about the position in general, to bring it back to the market standard. The other thing too is it's not also about the position, but it's about the entire supervisor's department. We heard Seth talk about that some supervisors make 32 grand a year because they have a much larger staff. They have other people in their staff. They have bookkeepers and budget officers and all these things. But what you really have to look at if you want real numbers, and Councilman Hewitt, Legislator Hewitt brought it up, but it can't be these fuzzy numbers that say, well, this supervisor makes this much and this supervisor makes this much. It's what does that department take to run the town? And again, the lowest. You know, we're fortunate we don't have to bring in more manpower, pay more FICA, pay more Social Security, pay more benefits. You know, we're fortunate that we're able to do so much work with so few people that, quite honestly, in general around the town are underpaid. I'd also just like to remind everybody that the supervisor's position in the town of Rochester manages 50 people, a $5.5 million budget, nearly $1 billion worth of assets. And in the free market, that position would be paid 5 times what it's paid. And again, nobody's saying to the school superintendent, hey, you got a 3% raise on 400 grand, you know, and that's, $12,000. Nobody's over there complaining. We're complaining about, scheduling a market adjustment. Again, we've lowered the general fund again for the second year in a row while combating inflation, while combating the cost of COVID, while combating price increases. I feel really good about this budget, and I'm eager to endorse it exactly the way.
Well, my plan worked. Everybody made all the points. I'm going to make the most of them. I thank all the board members for their comments. More importantly, I thank the public. It's really valuable to me to hear from people, to understand what people are going through. And I struggle with this because I know. I mean, look, if you're on a fixed income, you're not getting any salary increases. You're not getting any additional money coming in the door, and the 8% inflation that's hitting people on fixed incomes very hard. I also agree with Mr. Dunn about several things, most importantly the property tax thing, but also his desire to have philosophical conversations. I'd love to talk more about the philosophical underpinnings of some of our current government systems. but he left, so I'll have to catch him another time. I don't like focusing on the percent increases. I think, you know, I deal with that in my day job. We have employees that work for us, and we have very valuable employees that started out at lower salaries and other employees that started out at higher salaries, and one pool of money. And if everybody gets 4%, the more valuable underpaid employee could potentially be getting less of a percentage of that overall adjustment than somebody who's got a higher salary and is not doing the job that they should be doing. So I agree, this is not a cost of living adjustment, as people commented. I think it's a market adjustment. I think it's an important adjustment. I think we really need to think about what the position is. As many people have pointed out, align the salaries of that position. I think it's also true that, you know, we could very well have to hire additional people to manage some of the things that current supervisor is managing, that the board is helping to manage. We're all putting in a lot of time, and it's, I mean, that's a viable option. In the future, we want to look at that. If we have a Bridge New York project, and we want to hire a project manager to take some of that responsibility off, you know, you still have to pay for those things. I think also in terms of the supervisor, that's a very unique position. That person has thousands of bosses. I mean, any of us can call up the supervisor's office and complain. And I think generally they need to listen. Now, some of them may not, but I know that Mike does. I know I've been in his office when he's getting constant calls from residents about one thing or another. And more importantly, those thousands of people can decide whether to hire or fire that person. In fact, we have an election coming up next year. So that is a position that we as a town, we as residents get to decide. So I think it's important for us to show that we value that position, we value the contribution of that town, and that we have a salary in place that, as Erin pointed out, is going to make that desirable for people that want to do the job full time, that feel committed. And you know what? If they decide that they don't want that salary in the future, they can do what they want with the money. They can donate it to charity, they can do, you know, anything else. But I think it's important that people who want the job, who need the job, and who need to be able to live off of that job are interested in it, which is why I support it. And I also think it's important for us to recognize that this budget does make a lot of adjustments. I'm shocked because the same 8% that is impacting everyone across the board is also impacting the town. Things are getting more expensive, and to have the small amount of increase overall that we're having, I know it's impactful to people. I think that's a step in the right direction. I'm glad that people recognize the work that went into that. Again, you know, I know this is a challenging conversation to have, but I feel strongly that based on the job, that salary is deserved. I think it's in line with what other towns are already paying their supervisors, and I think overall that's why I'm supportive of the budget.
And I just have one more thing I want to say to you. I do hear you. My father was having I hope you guys don't have the same unfortunate circumstances that he has no pension for and that. You can see that, but I understand that you want. I had I understand, and I see when your notes are not going on that.
We're all just smiling.
I mean,
I didn't seem to be.
This isn't a conversation.
Exactly. We know it.
Yeah,
You know it's not.
Charlotte, if you finish your comments.
It's going forward. It's clear it's going forward. So,
You know?
You don't have to remember.
Mr. Coleman make a good point. Elections are coming. Right. Elections are coming.
I'm not putting it on the for a vote tonight, so
I know
we'll
you're
talk
not.
about it on the 16th.
Mike, I know you're not.
B, this is not public comment anymore, okay? Please.
It should always be public comment because contrary to.
When you're in the seat, then you can do it if you choose to be.
If I were in this seat, there would be public comment at every meeting. This I can tell you, and I would not ask for a 22% raise of people who can't afford it and have a board that was given. So I would have taken a cut in pay and stick my zero. That's a fact.
Moving on, please, to the attorney for the town report. She is not here tonight because we are saving our funds. There was no reason to have her, but I would like to tell you the question that was asked last month about CPL 2.10 and the opinions of the court office administration. The town attorney did legal research, including the section of law. She checked with criminal procedure law again after last month's meeting to be sure that she had not missed anything in her research and that the comments made were incorrect in the interpretation of the law, and the town board may proceed with the resolution from October if we wish. I'm going to ask that we not do that resolution at this moment because this was for the court officers. The problem has since somewhat solved itself in that the administrative constable is no longer serving as a court officer. The other constables are. So I don't believe we have the issue anymore. So I'm going to propose that we take no action on it for the moment. We'll reevaluate it for next year for 2023. We'll see how the next few months go. We have 3 and maybe 4 constables who now are regularly available to serve as court officers. They are allowed to, contrary to some of the statements that were made. It's only the Office of New York Justice Court Administration came back with an interpretation that an administrative constable is a semantics thing, essentially still doing the duties of the chief constable, so is unable to be a court officer by law. So, but we have solved that problem because, as I said, that administrative constable is no longer doing the job. So it may be a non-issue and we can just continue to move forward as is. But I do appreciate that she looked into it. She had a couple of comments on the Ambulance District Board of Commissioners. She was recommended a couple changes, and we're going to get to that agenda item later tonight. We can either choose to schedule it for public hearing, or we can work on it some more and schedule it for public hearing. I would like to get it done and try to get appointments made before the end of the year. So we do have a little bit of a time crunch, but not a lot. Town clerk tax collector report. Kate?
For the town, for the month of October, $46,006.69 were collected. Last month, I had a meeting with the local county commissioner of finance, and we discussed the new county tax program that will be implemented probably the beginning of 2024. So I will be coming to the board with that next year. The Department of Finance will be revamping how they structure the whole tax structure, and it will affect towns moving forward.
New software.
New software, new software, not cheap software. So I will continue to have that on my radar in the next few months. They were going to legislation in November to have it approved. This was a project that started in 19 and kind of fell at the wayside with COVID. They are moving forward. And Bert did give me some pricing, but I don't take those yet.
I believe it is on the legislature's agenda for November, and I will make sure to go speak on behalf of the towns and recommend that they don't push costs of this software onto the towns and the county. So another one of the many meetings I go to.
And from what the contract reads, that towns have 2 years to decide if they want to enter into it. At that being, after that second year, it will jump tremendously. And I feel as though it's inevitable. It's going to happen.
We should all try to speak to legislators who did on this, try to give them a call or email and find out.
So as I learn more, I will keep
Sorry.
no, it's okay. I'll keep the board posted with this ultimately. We'll probably, I'd say by next May, something that we'll know for sure.
Would that mean you don't use Williamson Law? No, you can still use Williamson Law for your town
No,
clerk.
it's just the Ulster County $100 tax program.
It's going up to probably 1,000. 1795. Ooh, okay.
And if you don't sign in 2 years, it will be over 4,000.
Okay, we definitely need to talk to the county then with their $47 million sales tax windfall that they have, and ask them to fund that program with that, some of that money. I'll be at the legislature meeting.
And tax collectors don't have to join it, but I fear if we don't join it within that timeframe, what is going to happen? So that's why I'm kind of, and I do have something that sounds fine, but I think I'll put that
Okay. Highway superintendent report, our new part-time highway secretary started 24th. She's doing 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. Seems to be working out very well. I actually have not had the opportunity to meet her yet because we crossed paths when I got in and out. But she did the first round of vouchers, and came through with flying colors. We got the computer moved over there to her office and had a few hiccups. Fish came and helped us solve those problems. We still need to get the phone line moved over there, I think. I have to call Kathy Gordon for that.
The phone's over there, it's fine.
It's not hooked up. But Jeff said there's no jack anymore over there, to plug it in. So
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what happened. So I've got to call our Cornerstone, our phone provider, and have them come solve that problem. Because right now, when the highway 626 number rings, it's not ringing anywhere. So people are calling about highway issues. It's not going anyplace. And Kate's getting the calls instead. Or I'm getting the calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going somewhere, but not
My
not
phone
where it
is a
should
big
be.
default phone. My office.
The October 22 financial report was filed with the board and with the town clerk. We are in decent shape. We are showing through the month of end of October in the general fund a $205,985 excess. We have spent 69.5% of our budget through 75% of the year, which is good. And in terms of revenue, we are at $77.65% of the revenue has come in. We do have a few big ticket items coming in. I guess also on the legislature's agenda is the mortgage tax payment that will come in November. And we have another $270,000+ coming in mortgage tax. So we are way over our budgeted amount for mortgage tax. So good news. Highway is not as good, unfortunately. 64% of the revenue has come in, but bear in mind, we have $595,000 check showing up in December from CHIPS. And on the revenue side, or the expenditure side, we spent 91% of our budget already. So we're in a little tough constraints on highway. They are in a negative $597,000. But that check coming in will solve that. But bear in mind, the town loan, the general fund loan, highway 500,000. So we're probably going to dip into his fund balance a little bit. I just don't see any other option, but it's the cost of materials. Yeah, highway can only make money, taxes, and essentially taxes and chips are about the one place they make some money.
When did you say the chips comes in?
Then he looked by December 10th, hopefully before December 30th, because that's got to pay us back the 500,000 he owes us. Unless we give it to him now.
No way, fine.
Yeah. The revenue for 2022, October 22, general fund is $305,908.81. A big chunk of that was the ARPA money that we deposited there to pay the ambulance squad. Highway fund revenue is $4,386.92. Abstract 10 of 2022, paid general fund $247,142.70. Highway fund $39,015.13. The street lighting fund paid nothing. I did get an email from Nexamp. They are still playing catch up with Central Hudson. So although I did get my personal bill, although it was only $62, so I paid it very quickly.
Mine is $5.59.
Yeah,
Yeah, mine would be-
$62, so I paid it and didn't ask questions.
Fallen.
The escrow fund paid out $11,226.23 and refunded $2,654.26 to applicants that for projects that were the applications were closed out. Total expenditures for October, $324,996.61. Highway fund, $98,753.06. Correspondence report. I don't have much for you this month because I just ran out of time. However, we did get, it was dated the 31st, but it just came to us. The Rochester Residents Association made a very generous $250 donation to help pay the expenses of the annual Thanksgiving dinner. They do that every year and we thank them for that. So I will try tomorrow to get you the rest of the correspondence by email. I don't have the COVID-19 report except I'm still.
I was about to say,
We still want.
you
I'm
are.
still one of them. The New York Rising, the Harold Lifton Community Center where we're sitting is getting closer to close out. And I'm just gonna stop there because I've been saying we're gonna be ready to close out, we don't. The Algerville Firehouse is even closer. The fire district put the floor, they were doing the flooring in the main meeting room. They took on the labor of doing that to save costs. They finished today. I got the text, everybody's very happy. Barone now, the general contractor can go in and finish all the baseboard trim around that flooring. They will do touch-up paint and cleaning, and with any luck, we should be closed out of that by the end of this month. We have run into a little hiccup though in that the water, same water problems we have here, in that it's not potable without a filtration system. We may have the same problem there. We may have to put a filtration system in there. There is enough funding left to still do that if we have to, but it may delay the close out of it. So
What is it?
it's not drinkable.
Bacteria?
Cobalt form. Boyce Mill Road Bridge, nothing new to report except we're getting $2 million from the federal government and we're paying 5% of that. And this is what frustrates me. I single-handedly got that money. It was not Jeff. It's not a knock on Jeff. Jeff would not have submitted the application. I found CP Mail. I got them to do the application for us. I got the board to agree to do that. I made that happen. I saved the town $1.9 million, but it's not good enough. I apologize, but this was so disheartening tonight that I, quite frankly, am about ready to just resign. And the board can find somebody else. And I don't mean that as a threat, and I appreciate all you guys said, but the misstatements that are made about this job and the fiction that takes place just highly annoying. And the fact that nobody could bother to come support it, really upsetting. I'll leave it at that. These Ulster County CARES applications, these are small business assistance programs.
About the record management grant.
Oh, yes,
But yeah.
yes, thank you. The large format scanner, the one we just paid the bill for, it is ordered and on the way, and be in that office over there sometime, hopefully before Thanksgiving. I haven't had any more answers back from the scanning, and I got tomorrow, it's something like this, to email them and say where do we stand. It's gotta be done by the end of the year, or we lose the money. And it's down to the wire, but
It has to be completed and paid.
it has to be completed. I don't know that it has to be paid, but it has to be completed. So if we get the records, back December 31st, I think we're still okay. But they were gonna bill us some of it, and what we have to do, we've gotten 50% of the money up front. Once we spend that, we then submit new requests for funding, but we haven't even, the only thing we've spent money on so far is the scanner, and that's $7,100 of the $60,000. So it's not even close to half. So we'll,
There's no payment structure for
at completion. And it's being paid for through, what's the organization, New York Special Disabilities, NYSED, NYSED. Because InStream hires people with development disabilities to do the work, and then NYSED bills us, and then NYSED pays InStream. So it makes its way around. So hopefully, otherwise, we'll have to put the bill and
Well, we should make sure that if they're running up that deadline,
we
have for delivery.
Yeah, exactly what we got. Yeah. I just, if we don't complete it, I don't know if the education department will consider it a complete project.
Mhm.
We may end up having to scan a lot of it ourselves on our new scanner. So,
Sunday.
this Ulster County Economic Development Opportunity is something that the county wanted to make us aware of, the Office of Economic Development. Any small businesses located in Ulster County with 25 or fewer employees can get up to $35,000 in funding. Is huge. So they'll provide reimbursement of up to 100% of eligible project costs. Applications are being accepted starting Monday, October 1st. And I apologize, I didn't print the second page, but I think it's December 11th is the closing date. So any small business that you know of, Aaron, your business might be qualified.
Yes, they applied in 2020.
Good.
And at that time, they hadn't awarded it
Yeah.
to Mount Rockville.
Yeah.
So,
Kate, if you can think of any, I did make the racetrack aware of this. Ackwood Speedway, any small businesses, the key is they gotta have 25 or fewer employees, but any of our businesses did. So it's,
Can we post stuff like this on the website? No.
yeah, this just came out in Tuesday, so, yeah, we should probably scan this and I'll catch you the second page. I didn't realize it rolled over onto the second page when I printed it. Public hearing, UCRA, there is a new director. His name is Greg. I can't remember the last name. Comes from the state of California, has a lot of very innovative ideas of how to deal with waste. Met with the Supervisors Association, has already reached out to every town and wants us all to come there and sit down and have a conversation with them. Seems like the real deal. He really is looking to reinvent waste. And he is completely sold that the way to do it is to reduce waste, not just come up with a landfill. He's totally against the idea of a landfill in Ulster County. He had a company come that does pelletization of waste. Unfortunately, the board of the UCRA dismissed the idea. Just, nope, not even interested, but I think he hasn't given up. He seems like a really good guy who's thinking out of the box and is looking to solve our problems. Because within 10 years, we're gonna have waste problems. Veterans Day, we will be having a ceremony at 11 a.m. on November 11th at Veterans Park. Mary Mandola, a veteran in our community from the Vietnam era, is going to be our featured speaker. She was going to do it last year, and it was the same day as the groundbreaking of the Veterans Cemetery in New Paltz, and the times conflicted. So she has agreed to do it. Vinnie Nigro, our champion, is letting me use the sound system. If anybody is around on that Friday morning, though, we can help them sort of set it up. Because Vinny, unfortunately, is driving a friend of his down to the city that day. So he would not be available to help set it up. But he's going to get me the equipment on Thursday,
How much time do you need?
maybe a half an hour.
I'm planning on coming.
Okay.
I probably couldn't get there much.
Like,
More
if
than
somebody
that.
can get there around,
Okay.
that would be helpful. And it's fairly easy. It's just setting up the microphone and a couple speakers and stuff. I mean, I can't imagine it's what you look for. It's a half an hour.
Yeah.
So,
I'm also plan on being at there at 10, but then I have to.
I don't have a lot of other ceremony planned. I just like to just feature Mary speaking and then do my usual, just allowing anybody else to say anything they want to say. Simple, but just the honor of that is. Department updates. Who wants to go first? There's nobody else here, so.
I'll go.
I-
I'll go first. So ZBA, no update, there was no meeting this month. We still, what's crazy is budget, we still need to just look at that alternate position, has been a problem, applicants coming forward, but I just want to keep that on our radar. We still, what's that? Oh, no, sorry. So we still have the one person interested. I think we can reach out and see if that's still the case, and if not, we're gonna have to figure out what.
Okay. That term, part of the reason I haven't done anything with that alternate position is that term expires the end of December, so I figured we would just appoint somebody January, rather than appoint somebody for a month and a half.
I can consult with the chair and see.
Yeah,
what
check
the thoughts are.
with that gentleman who expressed interest, and if he still has interest, we'll put him first on the list.
Okay, and Charter Spectrum, so, Alex has been very interested to know how the board discussion went and what we decided. I said we haven't decided anything yet, but appreciate the information. And
I got tied up with the budget and haven't had time to go through that list.
same here. So I told him we might be discussing it in our next workshop meeting, so maybe we can get the information together and figure it out. In terms of EMS and fire, reached out to Chief Demarest, wasn't able to get a hold of him, so I don't have any updates from the fire district. I did talk to NERCO. He said that KFAS was dispatched 75 times in October, responded to 93% of the calls for a 97.3 response rate. He also had some questions about plans for the commission and what we're thinking on that. I actually told him that this is agenda item tonight. So I'm looking forward to that discussion. I think I would love it if we could talk to squads and see if they have any feedback. He is very interested in terms of how that board will be structured and what the engagement will look like. So that's something we should consider. And then in terms of Marbletown First Aid Unit, they had 64 total calls. I didn't actually get a response percentage with 30,000, so I was putting it on my notes here, so I can check back with Chuck on that. 2 calls in the certificate of need area of Rochester, and then 1 mutual aid call for responding. So
And we did get
64 total calls.
their budgets, which are included in the preliminary budget, and Marbletown is getting 17, think it says 17,500. It was handwritten because he was only able to take a picture of it and send it to me. But I believe it's the very colorful page to the back of the budget. Now, there is a concern from KPAS that they say the funding needed from town of Rochester is $250,575, but we have 175 to give them right now. We can talk about further with our promotional balance, but that's what we'll have with the taxes.
And that is, all the updates I have.
Thank you, Michael.
I just have a question with the commissioners, the board would appoint these commissioners?
Yes.
Now, will it ever become elected positions like with the fire company? They'll always be-
The board has the
We have the
authority to
authority to
decide.
set it up either way.
Okay,
So
because I just recently read that, how that's how they
Yeah.
created fire commission.
we're setting it up as appointed
Okay.
at this time, but a future board could change it to elected, and it would be elected just like the fire commissioners.
So currently an elected official on different levels could serve on that.
Yes.
Okay.
And in some examples that I found, one town board member actually sits on that.
That did remind me of something. So Mr. Nurko also mentioned that there is currently legislation in Albany that's under consideration that would enable towns to set up inter-municipal agreements for that. So he did want to make sure we were aware of that, which I remember that from the previous conversation. So obviously, if that does happen, great, we can have conversation. Well, kind of worse.
It's probably at least a year away.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I've been following it really pretty carefully, so.
Yeah, and
Michelle
I-
Henchy is the spearhead of that, so we have a pretty good direct line getting information from her, so even if she's not our representative. So we just have to make sure she gets reelected. I'm not sure a new person would take over.
Not waiting.
Well, it's not in our district, so we have no say anyway.
That's why I'm not waiting.
Charlotte.
Elder care program, I briefly spoke to Rich on his lunch break from his training that he is doing today. And there's not really many updates again, when this was a busy season for them, but he has given out at least half of the flyers that the food pantry asked that he provide to people. So I'm assuming that means that he's done at least half of, I think he said it was around 25 to 30. Well, he has that many new registration forms for the registration form as well. Housing committee wise, we are doing our interview with the housing committee before our workshop meeting on the 16th. I have so far.
I made up
So
a
far,
spreadsheet every 10 minutes.
For interviews so far, 6 of the 13 applicants have responded. One though is the planning board chair that wasn't looking to fill a position on the housing committee. He was looking to help mediate meetings and keep them focused as we serve on another housing committee that kind of didn't meet any objectives of it because they got too sidetracked with the role oriented, so he's operating the system. So I don't know if we actually need to interview him for that or if we are.
I would
able
like to, because I think we could utilize his services, whether we could always make him an ex officio member, meaning he doesn't have any voting power, but we could still include him in the process. And he talked to me before he talked to you. He said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, you should talk to Charlotte, but I can see the benefit of it," because he said he did serve on the housing committee where he lived previously and could bring a lot of information. So
Yeah, I have him scheduled for what he
Yeah,
wanted.
I think we should interview
But I
him.
just wanted,
I-
I agree that we should at least talk and
Yeah.
touch base with it as a group, so. I
we
just wanted
can
to
hear
make
his
sure.
ideas of how he would fit.
6 responded, so that would be 5 potential
I'm
actions.
hoping, are they all like within one time? or they all
No,
within-
of course not. They're almost, there's 3 that are after the 7:30 mark, and then the other, actually, I'm sorry, I have 4, 1 is different. So there's 7 altogether.
Okay,
The majority are before the 7 o'clock, and then we might have a little half hour break.
okay. Well, if we have to, we can.
I asked them all to respond to me by Monday, so it's able that it's not.
That's fine.
To try now, we'll reschedule if they'll be interested.
So,
And I'm sure we'll get at least one person who emailed multiple times about the committee and wondered what was going on with it, hasn't responded yet.
Did you, You got the email that I forwarded you from Claire Wasser about, she was just curious what was going on. Maybe I didn't forward it to you. You
No, I got her
forwarded it to me.
initial one that was asking to.
She reached
be
out to Kate and
considered.
I
And she put
earlier
on my
this week.
schedule.
Okay.
So it might have been before she got my.
She
I
reached
sent
out
my
on the
email.
31st and I said she'd be getting an email very soon.
No, I think I did them on the first, when I sent the email out.
Great costumes, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I should say that.
Erin,
Okay, so, for code enforcement, two things. I have a fun thing. I asked Alyssa to remember we had a debate about how many short-term rentals we would have between when we were considering it and now. So I got those numbers. And we have gotten, 2 owner occupied since, August 16th. And 5 non-owner occupied. since August. So,
seven more.
yeah, so not, and they also have a very good idea that they're working on for figuring out non-compliance right now.
I think I know what that.
I thought was very smart.
is.
So, yes,
So, I'm sorry. Well, I was gonna ask, so where were we in relation to cap when we had those?
so we had a cap of, well,
This would fall into the 2022 cap, which.
Yeah.
Which is what? We had 100.
it was
and
100.
Yeah.
So,
we weren't even close.
yeah, 63.
We're at 63 plus 5 non-owner.
No, we're at 63 now.
So we had 81
Grandfathered
grandfathered
in.
in, so we're
Yeah.
actually at 140 on those. other
But we don't know how
50.
many of those are non-owner occupied. So it was just the increase of applications from August 15th till now was a total of 7 applications. So,
About 8 weeks, 10 weeks.
yeah, I just wanted to share that, but we did have a very long discussion about what we thought the psychology of
I
that.
still think our numbers right. I still think-
And then the other thing they brought up, so, is I guess the Explorer is shot. And they were saying they need a new
Oh, well,
vehicle.
let me talk to Jeff again because I get differing opinions from our mechanic and from our code enforcement.
So, but one thing I wanted to bring up is I said, hey, do you think the vehicle for our inspectors could be shared with the rest of the town? And they said, yes. So, I was just thinking about that, but I don't have that.
It'll be tough though, because the inspectors work 2 days a week
Yeah.
times 2, so 4 days a week. That would be tough, because I would only use 1 day a week. That wasn't a use.
I wanted to bring that up. So they need something to get to and from the inspection. That was a discussion we had today, so I don't know what has transpired. It was also a reason I was thinking like, we should not take that vehicle out of the
No.
budget again.
I'll-
Because
I'll-
it's clear
I'll-
that we
Yeah,
need
was-
something. You
We
dropped it
dropped
to
it to
25.
25,000. I'll start searching options again.
But I'm just,
I'll see if I get lucky again.
I thought it was,
Find another fire district that wants. to-
I didn't want to get all into that in our budget discussion, but as soon as I was like, we cannot delete that car from the budget again. We've done it like 2 or 3 years in a row now, so.
There's not
Got it.
much. Well, cut out of our budget.
Yeah, no, there's not.
There really is.
So that was all I had for them. And then, the ECC, switched their meeting time to 6 at their last meeting.
We're still gonna meet the last Tuesday.
Yeah.
of the month, huh?
I was not at the meeting because we had a meeting. And they do want to put in a pollinator garden at the town hall in the area.
John talked to me about that. He had asked for money in his budget, but we have the budget line for parks,
Yeah,
which would
Yes.
cover that.
Yeah.
So.
and then they,
Flowers and pollinators.
and I think they'd work with they wanted to leave the Minton.
Oh, they did want to leave some?
But there's a lot of empty space. Um, and then, they are working on an updated mission statement. And also have been working diligently on getting, comments of the light.
Did the new member get sworn in?
Yes, and that member will be attending the, Ulster County Environmental
Oh, the
Council.
EMC?
So I think we might be able to put, him forward as the.
Let's
main
give him a
event.
month first.
Yeah,
and
so
see if
he's
it works
going,
out.
he's
Yeah.
gonna go to, or he did go to the October meeting.
Good.
So we should check in about that and then their third Thursday is on pollinators this month. And it is,
17th?
I think so. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Wouldn't be Thanksgiving. It's
Right.
27th.
I didn't take notes. I'm just making notes now. I haven't had a chance. I'm going to be at the transportation this Saturday, so I'm gonna check it with the staff. But we do have, so the, volunteers that would really like to put in like a raised floor in the exchange area to keep the ice out, and I guess the Rotary Club of the Hudson Valley would like to fund that project, so I'm gonna be talking to them.
Did you got my email? So my concern there is when I
They
was.
want to do
yeah,
both.
When I was there on that
Yeah,
day, the walls that they put up totally obliterated the vision lines.
Yeah.
And we got some real safety issues.
yeah, so
I don't care about the floor,
Yeah.
but we gotta do something about the wall.
I-
Because you used to be able to see through
Yeah,
it.
so-
They can't.
I think the two things will happen at the same time.
Okay.
Is my understanding there. And then I think I brought this up at the last meeting, but, they'd also like to adopt some, procedural guidelines for the volunteers that they fully support. So I'll be getting a draft of that and circulating that to the board. As for the planning board, I think I told you guys this last month. I was just looking at the, there was they continue to have several agenda items, mostly, minor subdivisions. And things have been getting approved and going through, it's been going really smoothly. And I can't remember if it was the last regular meeting or the month before, so I might have told you this, but there was a really wonderful moment at one of the planning board meetings where someone from the public had gotten a notice about the project and thought that it meant something and came and voiced their concerns, was very concerned. And then it turned out that the thing that they were really concerned about was not actually going to happen. And by the end of it, the owner of the parcel and the neighbor were shaking hands, and it was really,
That's what the public
Really-
hearing process is
I-
supposed to do.
it was really wonderful. And I think the only thing is we've been talking about is being able to post some of the maps on the wall, because the public has been trying to go up to the screen, and they've been sort of working through how to have that so that people can really delve into.
We used to do them on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But anyway, that was a really wonderful moment with watching them see that halfway through.
You see that?
And I think they'll be getting, they had a meeting on Monday,
Wednesday.
on Wednesday that I wasn't at, to comment on our latest set of laws. I'm forgetting the department.
You got them all.
No, I think you said- Okay, great.
Can I,
That's it.
can I go back to the transfer station? Did we fix the, whatever the excess stuff that was there?
That is fixed.
I got it.
Yes, that got resolved. Mhm.
We had to
Back
have,
over to the-
we had to have a short-term moratorium on taking anything new. Because
Yeah.
It was just overwhelming because there weren't a lot of volunteers there. People were just leaving stuff.
Yeah.
And it got out of control. So Justin did the right thing. He checked it with me, but he said, I'm putting up a sign, nothing new.
But it's back open.
It's back open.
Yes, and 5 volunteers signed up, and I think they even need to Rose in several way.
Yeah.
But,
We continue to take in more money than we're spending, so we're okay there for right now, although we have any more 400 tire disposals. of the
Yeah.
time, we may not have that
Yeah.
much. And we should have the new transfer station stickers soon, but I sent the order into the copy hut yet last week, and she emailed me back this week and said there's a 60-day back order on the static, on the stickers. So she's looking for another source for us, but the copy hut in Kingston has been really good with us the last few years on this, so Kate and I are both hoping we have them. We try to start selling them in December. Adam?
Recreation Department would like to report that the youth Halloween party was a lot of fun this year. Approximately 40 children attended with their parents. Thank you to Jessica and Nat for DJing the event. Thanksgiving's quickly approaching, and we'll be holding our community luncheon at the Harold Lifton Community Center on Friday, November 18th. Please call the rec department to sign up at 626-2115.
Relative to one.
There's still room in the after-school program. You can also call the rec department at 626-2115 for more information. The basketball registration has been closed. The clinics have begun running smoothly on Monday nights at the Croxton Elementary School, and the league will begin mid to late November. Medicare consultations are ongoing. Call the Ulster County Office for the Aging for more information, and stay tuned for more holiday events in the rec department happening in the very near future. As far as the constabulary, there were 12 neighbor-to-neighbor and quality of life complaints, 3 residential traffic complaints, 2 environmental complaints, 6 new building department violations, 0 court cases were opened, 9 court proceedings remain open, 0 court proceedings were closed. Interesting occurrence. October started out with a great Heritage Day town event, and we do want to thank our constables once again for putting in a long day. But they closed down Main Street for the safety of the event, its participants and vendors. After the event ended, however, a single vehicle was left in Veterans Park. The owner was located and notified. She indicated her son was using the car. She was worried that there hadn't been any contact for a long while. Finally, they were able to reach him as well. Overall traffic complaints were down this month, with notable exceptions of around 4455 due to the fall foliage viewing. Trespassing and harassment complaints are continuing this month, and investigations are ongoing. Short-term rental properties continue to generate an increased number of complaints that include trespassing, loud noise, road and driveway blockages, and garbage and trash dumping. The current increase is likely due to the influx of people staying in short-term rentals to view the fall foliage. We continue to work with the building department on those issues. Neighbor-to-neighbor complaints have decreased again this month, and all have been diffused without further action necessary from our chief, Richard Miller.
Okay. 4455 Minnewaska issue. The state police have been manning that regularly this year. So there was one day I drove through, and there was, not at Minnewaska, but at the Overlook, there was just a line of cars of people who decided to park along the stone wall, which is probably the dumbest idea I think I've ever seen. But I called Rich, and unfortunately he wasn't able to come out. I called him and I said, "Do you want to start writing some of our new parking tickets?" And he said, "I can't." And then when I came back through a couple hours later, it had cleared itself up. So, but the state police are regularly being stationed now at Minnewaska. So that has taken some of the responsibility off our plate. And the superintendent of Minnewaska and I have been in communication, and he didn't think it was necessary this year. So we did not schedule the constables like we had in past years. Doesn't mean it's off the plate for the future, but for right now, seems to have managed itself. Assessors update. Joanne and the assessor are continuing to organize the office so they can work more effectively and efficiently according to the IAO guidelines. He does have his new desk, we actually were removing the old desk when Joanne said, wait a minute, if you turn it sideways and put it against mine, it's a place now where customers, when they come in, can sit and have paperwork in front of them. So they're sort of reconfiguring their office, and so the old desk didn't go away. It's being utilized. Property inspections, he's attempting to do them of new construction as time permits. Remember, we did include in our budget for a 20-hour field worker. And I am going to approach Marbletown and Rosendale and see if they if they also did the same thing, and then we can offer it as a full-time position shared with the twin towns. If not, we will fund it for the 20 hours a week that we did and move forward with that. Office work, they're working on processing sales, entering building permits, certificates of completion, 911 addresses. They're pulling plans from the building department, sketching new construction and additions, reviewing assessments of new construction renovations, answering calls, assisting property owners and the general public with their exemption and assessment questions. And they are starting to send out renewal applications for the exemptions that require annual renewal. March 1st is the deadline. I know they've been working really diligently on a new form that simplifies and answers a lot of questions, because a lot of people get these letters and just think it doesn't apply to that for some reason. And then they come in April and you go, oh, I didn't know I had to reapply. So we're trying to make sure that everybody knows and they get it done, because we don't have the ability to waive. If they're late, they don't get the exemption. And he's going to take some vacation days in November. Kate, HBC?
So if you haven't noticed, the historical markers, signs are being refurbished and they look great. I don't know if you know the two right on Shoreline line here. The commission discussed concerns they have with the Palentown School water
Where
drainage
is it?
issue. So I don't know if they decided to go with the one right on the top of Sampsonville Road.
Oh,
there's
okay.
It's kind of up in the hill there,
Yeah,
or they were
up by the
talking,
olive border.
yeah, or they were talking about up Sampsonville Road. I'm not- I'm
The
not-
two that he did were good.
They do, they really do.
And he was so funny. He did a nice Facebook post where he was like, I learned so much about the history of the town of Rochester from painting these.
The commission also discussed concerns they have with the Palentown School water drainage, and they have submitted a letter to Supervisor Reed, and I do believe at this point you have met their concerns.
I've met with Frank Corporate on that, and he's gotten me a quote, or he's getting me a quote, and he hopes we'll have to-
They had a guest, Peter Forsythe, who is Town of Rochester historical property owner. I'm looking to get him involved as well. There was a discussion on the reconstruction of the reconnaissance survey, and I just wanted to go on record because this was stated last month, and I want to state that at the June meeting, it was approved by B and seconded by Joan to approve the Farmstead bus tour. But because the bus tour was delayed 2 months, by the time the voucher was received, the HB expended most of their money already for the historic marker signs. The
Oh, they were
signs did take over.
They were putting equity money.
Okay, well, that was not stated at the
This-
last meeting.
Yeah, the signs were $900 and the bus was like 500. They had plenty of money.
So they appointed a B to be their, so to speak, treasurer on this, and she told me there was only 131 or
Because
$38.
she's counting the funding for the markers next year in this year's budget. And I told her we're only paying for 3 of them now and the rest later.
But I just wanted to go on record that, because it was stated last month on the record that no one knew about paying for the bus tour. And in fact, that was not the case. And as town historian, I want to congratulate the Rochester Reformed Church on 321 years of worship. I think that's amazing. And they had a great service last week, and they celebrated the history dating back to 1698, which I think is fascinating. I was
That's
hoping.
Jenkins.
Well, it's Mr. Lee, who's, we all know loves numbers.
Yeah.
Couldn't let the 3-2-1 pass without a great celebration.
That's funny. Retired math teacher.
Off topic, I was really hoping more people were gonna stay when you guys discussed the budget a little more, because not that, it may have fell on deaf ears. But however, I am very proud of the elected officials in our town dating back for several years now. What many people don't know is that's not in our job description. Our county positions as well within our job duties, and almost every elected official has served on a board as a slate officer on these committees. In 2016, our supervisor, assessor, town clerk, and the highway superintendent all served as the actual president of those associations, and since then, each have served as officers. Currently, I'm an officer. I know Mike's an officer. I have faith that Jeremy will become an officer at some point. I think he has that drive. And those are just little things that people don't pay attention to. And I was also going to bring up the point of it's not in our job description to write grants either. And a lot of towns pay grant writers to do grants. And there's been several years where grants have been written to this town on our own time. And a lot of people, they don't take any of that into consideration. The little comments about extra jobs, I was kind of perceiving it as like we're creating jobs to kind of boost our salaries. These are positions that are required by law to have, and it makes sense for certain people to be in those positions. So those records are in your possession. So those were some of the things I wanted to say, but when you have the same five sitting here that made those statements that already know how it operates, it wasn't worth saying. But then as I'm sitting here tonight, I'm thinking maybe it's good to go on the record and say, because whoever's at home might actually process that a little bit. But I think our elected officials go above and beyond in their own towns. So
Thank you.
that's all I got. But I know each one of you here know
Bill,
that.
to build off that, I mean, and you both touched on it, the town of New Paltz, they have a paid controller position. The supervisor does nothing with the financial, yet that supervisor makes $50-some thousand a year. Miss Avery brought up Rosedale, that supervisor makes almost
More.
60,000.
Yeah, and
has a bookkeeper and a confidential secretary.
they created like an additional stipend
Yeah,
for them.
our office
for
has
project.
2 people. Kate's office has 2 people that does everything in that office. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but my assistant is the assistant, the bookkeeper, the purchasing agent, the HR person, and my assistant, answering the phone and dealing with everybody who walks in the door at that very moment. Doing 5 jobs. We're having an issue. New York State Retirement is converting their whole system to a new system. Great, but all the work has been pushed onto us. Yesterday, I had to comb a whole data set of 53 employees, and it was just data. It was comma delineated data, and scan and check every social security number because one of them was wrong, but we didn't know which one. That was an hour and a half worth of work. These people that think it can just be done it cannot be done in 20 hours a week. I'm not even going to try to do it. So I have confidence that you guys aren't going to cut it, but it's just disappointing the comments and the persecution, and quite frankly, it is persecution. It's harassment, and it's getting really old. So I'll just stop there. Pass those down. I guess we don't need public comment. Tracy, you want to say anything?
Oh, I have a lot to say. I can tell you. Thank you guys for your great job.
Thank you. Board members? Anybody with board member time?
Well, no.
Oh, I just want to say, for the perennials that you want to put in, I don't know if Judith was at that meeting, but Judith at one point had told me about this program that will give you 3 perennials to put in. Or not perennials, sorry, pollinated plants to put in.
Yeah.
So maybe we can take advantage of that. I mean, I'm happy for us to do so I'll get the date. I
Yeah.
know there is a grant or there's a
Yeah.
company right now that's giving them out for free to plant to kind of boost
The
pollinators.
budget line for that.
Low.
Yeah. It's mostly volunteer labor, so
I
it's
know.
just a little bit.
Yes, so.
Moving to resolutions. Town of Rochester Town Board accepts the minutes of the October 6th business meeting, the October 13th budget workshop. Oh, it says September, but it should say October 21st public hearing. Or is that a carryover? No, that should be crossed out. Okay. The October 19th workshop, the October 24th budget workshop, the October 26th budget workshop, the October 27th audit meeting, the October 27th public hearings, and the October 28th budget workshop meetings. You wanna
I'll make
motion?
that motion.
As amended. As
As amended.
removed
I'll second.
my.
For
Kate,
discussion, I was tired this week.
Kate did an amazing job with those minutes.
You were
Thank
probably
you.
tired, but I mean, after all those meetings.
Yeah.
Thanks for the minutes, Kate.
All in favor?
Aye.
Acceptance of donation. Town of Rochester Town Board accepts donations of $225 from the Heritage Day Pie Auction, 72 from the Heritage Day Pie Tasting, and $107.74 from State Polytechnic Style.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Authorizing the supervisor to initiate renewal of a contract. The Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the town supervisor to sign the collective bargaining agreement by and between the Town of Rochester and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 363, to be enforced for the period of January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2026.
I'll make that one.
1 second.
I'll second.
So the raises are 4%, 4%, 4%, 3%. We upped the clothing allowance from $300 to $500. They are responsible to submit receipts equaling that amount back to us over the calendar year. The extra week of vacation, the infamous Carl week as it's known, will remain for the first 2 years of the contract. The last 2 years of the contract, it will sunset. However, they will be able to take a certain percentage of overtime and convert it to comp time. So instead of getting paid for the overtime, they can get comp time off up to a certain amount, and I don't remember that certain amount.
So the comp time part was just for the last.
The last 2 years of the
Oh,
contract.
okay,
So
okay.
it kicks in January of 2025.
Got it.
And the Carl weeks go away.
Yep.
It was the one sticking point we really had in the negotiations. Michael and Frank from the IBW came up with a solution.
Not in mine.
No, Michael Richardson. I want to thank Adam for being involved in the negotiations. It was a little tougher than we expected, but at the end, everybody seems to be happy with this. And they have ratified it already. It's just a matter of us ratifying it tonight. And I'll tell Michael to produce the actual document, and I'll sign that. So, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Next, I'm going to pass this around. I'm asking for approval to pay general code in the amount of $1,195. This was a voucher that was due early November and did not get put in our audit like it should have. So we're paying it as a prepay. So if you guys can sign that and then
You got a
set
pen?
the date tomorrow. You can sign it right
All
now.
right.
I'm signing pink.
Make sure you pick the right date.
Yes, put today's date,
and the right
please.
minute.
So do I have a motion to authorize me to pay that bill?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Charlotte would have voted for this. It's, you know,
That was $11.95.
1,195, Michael?
1,195.
Yeah, general vote. That's for the Eco 360. It's the annual subscription. Charlotte, we voted on that. Are you voting yes to pay that?
It's fine.
Ambulance Board of Directors. I have a draft of a,
Commissioners.
oh, yes, yes,
Other month.
budget amendments.
Yeah.
I have copies for you guys here. Here, Michael.
The third, Aaron.
You don't need one. I'm sorry, one of them is in color and one's not. I forgot to turn the color, correct color. You and I were having those problems today, weren't we? There you go, Michael. So we can do these as one resolution. These are budget amendments, budget modifications for the highway
What do you
fund.
email that? You
Yes, these are for the highway fund and general fund. These will be made as of 11/3/2022. In the highway fund, we are changing it by $38,165 total. And the way I am fixing it is taking that out of appropriate fund balance for the moment. I'm hoping I can come up with a better solution by the end of the year, but for the moment, that's how I'm fixing it. On the general fund, there are various amendments ultimately resulting in a $25,000 difference, which is the difference of what we paid the EMS. And we are increasing the federal aid line by 25,000. We get to 187,500. And that I'm also using up the remainder of the contingency fund in solving this. And I went back, I had to go back through a couple funds where we had excess money and lower some of those in the budget. So both of these zero us out. I mean, in terms of expenditures versus revenue. So it's just a matter of moving the numbers around. So I'd ask for a motion authorizing me to make these budget modifications in the highway fund and the general fund as of 11/3/2020.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now moving to the Board of Commissioners. And we don't have to vote on this tonight. And you saw Mary Lou sent a couple comments. I went online and found there's only one good example of an appointed one. There was several of elected ones. So this would be chapter 4. We have to adopt it by local law. Mary Lou says we would have to adopt 2 local laws, one for each separate board of directors. However, they could be the same people, because I asked her this question. I said, is there any reason we have to have 2 boards? Can we have one board that oversees both? And she said, you still need to adopt them separately, but it could be the same people. So they would act in an advisory capacity to the town board regarding ministerial, and she says we have to take the word financial out because the ministerial is from state law. And it's listed in their place. So just say ministerial functions.
Is that what she was doing?
Yeah, related to the operation of the Rochester Ambulance District. In 42A.
Oh, the second one.
Yeah, the second. And they can conduct such other lawful functions with regard to the ambulance district as we request. That basically is the catch-all. If we come up with something that we want them to do that is lawful, they can assist us in that. The financing is financed through ad valorem tax levy. They would be appointed by us. Now, the composition, I was thinking 3 originally. This was the example that I found. It's 5 members, and one of those 5 is a town board member. That's up for us for discussion. Mary Lou also said the term shall be as follows: 2 one-year terms It should say as follows at initial appointment. Because at initial appointment, we would appoint 5 people. I probably would want to change it to 2 1 year, 2 2 years, and 1 3 year. And then every year you would be appointing more members. So the term is actually a 3-year term, but the initial term are either 1, 2, or 3, because you want to have a rotating staggered board. You don't want all 5 members to come up for reappointment on the same. So I would like to change it to 2 1 year, 2 2 year, and 1 3 year initially.
Okay, 2 1 year.
So it'd be 2 1 year, 2 2 year, and 1 3 year. And so after we say the terms shall be as follows at initial appointment, then below that, it should say all terms, all subsequent terms, that's what it should say. All subsequent terms shall be 3-year terms. So you start out so they're staggered, and then as you replace or reappoint, the next time they're appointed, it's a 3-year.
Is there a chairman of the board?
That's up to the board. We could set it in the law that the board picks the chair. We could set it that we pick the chair. We could include that in the local law if we wanted to. If we don't do anything, then it's up to the board to pick the chair, up to their board.
The ambulance board?
Yeah. So that's essentially it. I mean, I can rewrite it. Like she said, we have to adopt 2. So what do people think? Should we have just 1 5-member board that is adopted that does both districts? I can see the advantage of that.
Yes,
Yeah, 10 people floating around and.
Yeah.
one over.
How do you feel about one of our board members being one of those 5?
I don't think we should require it, and in fact, I would say, like, if people thought it was a good idea, which I don't think it's necessarily a good idea, I think we would make it optional so that it's like no more than 1 elected official could serve.
No more than one of whom may be a town of Rochester town board member. How
But
about that?
we could also take it out, I don't know. I'm not.
I mean, I think it has to be benefit to have the board member on there, not to. But I think
I don't know, yeah.
Well, I think it would be easier if it was the
It should-
liaison to the
Yeah, it should be somewhat
ambulance
independent.
squads that would be the one to report back to us on how it's going.
Like,
If we do, I'm not saying we have to, but if we were to put someone, it should be going to be fun. The ambulance squad, I don't know.
no,
Why
but
can't we just do it with that?
Yeah, I don't feel strongly one way or the other. This was in the example. If we want to take it out.
why don't you think it's a good idea to have a?
I think it's real, I think having it be separate is very valuable in this type of situation. And it's such a small board that I believe an elected official on that board can have a lot of influence. And we really want it to be this, we are trying to create distance in a way between the borough and the ambulance district. Now we are also the ones setting the laws, so I guess that's all, is that.
I also don't think, though, any of the members on this board should be an officer in the rescue squad or the ambulance squad.
Right,
I don't know how I feel if they're a member, but they definitely should. It's like a fire district commissioner can't be an
Right.
officer also in the fire district. And I think that's important.
What would the disadvantage of a member? I could see,
Oh, I don't know that I care if it's a member. It couldn't be an officer, because then it's somebody who has voting power, and now they have
That
voting
is-
power on a 5-member board. The same reason we don't want it to be one of us. It shouldn't be an
it's an
officer on their
oversight
side.
body, and I feel really strongly about that one actually, because you're talking about budget, overseeing the budget, helping to set the budget, like.
Yeah.
And it's just budget, the
And
ministerial function is just budget.
I don't think we have to have a town board member on there. I thought you were saying to attend their meeting, not one of
Like
their
the
voting
liaison.
members. Yeah, like liaison. I was like, no, it should be the same liaison. And
Yeah.
I didn't know that you meant as a voting member.
Yeah.
I meant that they should be the one reporting back.
Yeah,
So let's just say there shall be 5 members of the District Board of Ambulance Commissioners, and we'll just delete the rest of that.
And then the other thing, I also agree that it should be the same. And that's why I like 5. If it were gonna be different, I would only want it to be 3. But I like 5 if it's the same.
Yeah. We
people.
still have to do 2 local laws, one to establish each board, but there's no reason it can't be the same 5 people.
But then any future board could decide that those are 2 separate.
Absolutely.
That would be 10.
I would like to see too, somebody, at least one person, have to be somebody who has either profession or experience in first responders. You know, it could be a fire department member who sits on this board, you know.
I mean, we're already empowering future boards to appoint that, so if someone with those credentials applies, they can be considered. I don't know if we should mandate it.
Okay.
Because you may have a situation where nobody applies. And that's-
True. I mean, we can consider that ourselves when we're picking who the 5 people are.
Because I agree, it's valuable to have that. It might be valuable to have somebody with an accounting background.
Yeah.
Design background or something, make posters. I also don't think you should have a board member on there. I like the fact that this is separated out. It puts that budget outside of the control of this board, similar to the fire district, but not appointed commissioners. So I think that's a good step. It'll be interesting because if we leave it open to members, then, you know, if we have one for at least this round, then we could have a member from Marltown First Aid Unit that would be on the board that is determining budget for KPAS and not vice versa, or we could actually KPAS as determining. So I would want to be mindful of not creating situations there. I think another possibility is we could add an additional seat and then have representative from both of them, or we could have non-voting members and allow them to have a non-voting position.
Yeah,
as a member
I
of the
think
board.
starting simple.
Yeah.
I mean, I can write in the composition, I can write that no member may be the town of Rochester elected official or an officer in the ambulance district.
What do people think?
I think if you have one of 5 on there, somebody could have a real controlling interest.
Yeah.
I don't know though, but at the same time, sorry, go ahead.
Just wondering about town of Rochester resident.
I think they have to
think
be.
it's-
They have
I
to
was-
be
yeah, I was
by
actually-
law. They're appointed.
Is that, I was wondering.
Well, they don't necessarily have to be a town of Rochester resident though, because
Should
it's a
they be?
board of, well, I don't know, because they're just advisory to us. Some boards, you don't have to be a town of Rochester resident. The HPC is one that you're allowed to live somewhere else and be on, then with the ECC.
I think this would be an important one to make that required.
Yeah,
I mean, we could cap it, we could say no more than one member from the outside of the town office.
If you would want 5 people.
yeah, or if we don't do anything on it, then we can still take whoever we want.
Yeah, I guess I feel like, I mean, we could micromanage the composition. I think we're gonna do that. We should do that. We should say who we want members to be. I think I would feel as an one of the 5 appointers, I would want there to be someone who lives in the High Falls district, and someone who lives in the Cohasset and Aqua district to be on the board.
We could say that, well,
But if we're.
I mean, we could do that within our own self.
That's what I'm
without
saying.
putting it in the
We're,
law.
because also we still have to create 2. We're making the decision that we're gonna have them be the same 5
Right,
people.
but some
Future
future
boards
may not.
might decide that they want those to be 2 totally separate boards. So like, that's what I mean. I mean, I think if we leave it open-ended, then we have a lot more freedom when we're making the appointments. We could amend it in the future, but I'm a little nervous about saying exactly who we want.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that's fair to be open.
Let's just leave it at 5 for now. We can always amend the law down the road too if we think we need to change.
Yeah, and I don't want to categorically say no members of the board of directors, because, I mean, those are people that the membership has selected as leaders, potentially because they understand the inner workings of it.
I
So-
feel categorically.
Yeah, I do too, because I think their job is to the rescue squad. This board is the go-between between us and the finance. This board has to be able to say to the squad, no.
Well, yeah, my impression is the go-between between the town board and
Yes.
that board.
Right.
So if we
Yeah.
have members of both, it's.
Yeah,
Completely conflict of interest.
yeah.
If they can do it on both boards.
Still, we're saying that it would be up to the town board to decide. Do we want to say we can't pick the person that we think would be qualified?
We're not, but I wouldn't vote for anybody who's an officer. I wouldn't vote for them. Well, like you said too, the fire commissioner, you can't be an officer in the fire district and also be a commissioner.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think
We could add-
Marbletown there's like a representative from.
Marbletown put one of their town board members on the Marbletown First Aid Squad board, who happens to be a longtime volunteer fireman, former chief, was involved in the county fire coordinators. So, but he's not sitting on their commissioners, he's sitting on the Marbletown First Aid Board of Directors.
So what about non-voting members? I still think, I don't want to set it up where the board
Why?
or our commission can say, no, you can't speak, or no, you can't do this. I feel like there should be a venue for them to voice the position of the squads in the formal setting of the public meeting.
Yeah, but they don't have to be a member. I mean, the Board of Commissioners is, you know, we could really write this and say they must meet minimum twice a year. And I mean, this
Good
is,
idea.
this is a legal body. They still have to follow open meetings laws.
Do they have to allow public comment?
No, because no board has to allow.
We still are the ones who are adopting. They have no.
They're advisory.
They have no power other than advising the board.
We make the decisions.
I think it would be nice for us to provide a formal mechanism for the squads to at least speak in the context of that commission.
Well, they do. They're gonna submit their budget to this commission every year, and then the commission's gonna review the budget and advise us on what the numbers should be. That's their main function.
Right, but if we don't structurally put something in place that requires the commission to speak to them, they could be like, thank you for your budget, I'm gonna go make decisions based on.
No, they have to have open meetings laws. They still have.
But again, they don't have to listen to.
Well, but I think we're overthinking it, quite frankly.
I love overthinking stuff.
No, I just don't, I adamantly think there should not be an officer on that board.
Well, we're not voting on this tonight,
No.
so we can
I would, so,
marinate.
right, and the other thing I said during the updates is, I think we should talk to the board, and maybe they can make a more persuasive argument, maybe I'm wrong. It's happened before, but.
Well, I think we need to have that separation though. Because quite frankly, you know, like this new budget request that just came from KFAS, it's like, okay, you guys are telling us you need it, but the budget you submitted is 9 line items that are very generalized. We need more detail. You know, so what this commission is supposed to do is be there. You know, it's like the fire commissioners are responsible for the funding of the fire district. They still have to answer to the chiefs. They still meet in open meeting. I just don't think it's, you know, I think giving the rescue squads a seat at the table is a mistake. It'd be like having them have a seat at the table here at the town board.
No,
No, it would.
I mean, we give the residents an opportunity to speak.
I mean, we could, I don't think we have to solve this tonight.
Yeah.
We could say there'll be like an annual meeting where a representative of the town board and a representative of the board would meet and review. I mean,
Well, I
but
guess that's-
I would think that would happen.
I guess that's my larger point. We can put a mechanism in place to ensure that happens now, or we can have to come and change it later on.
But wouldn't the purpose of this board literally to be to communicate with their board on a regular basis and discuss budget issues and to have those conversations.
The
than
local
bring
law
us
is
an
just to
advisor.
create the board itself. We're not telling them how to operate. We're not telling them, there's laws and how they can operate. You know, no, the public doesn't have, they don't have to allow the public to speak, but, you know, they're gonna meet with, each squad is gonna present their budgets to them and come in, just like we met with the judges and the planning board chair, we asked them to come and defend their budget. I-
Move the table.
Well, yeah. If I bring this to the workshop meeting on the 16th, is that enough time to do it in a public hearing December 1st?
Yes.
So I'm gonna rewrite it with the changes we just talked about. We'll present it at the workshop meeting on the 16th for a vote, so we can set it for public hearing on the 1st, because I really want to get people in place by the first of the year. So. The moratorium, just to let you know where we stand. We've gone through most of the code. I'm finding the definitions on those couple of wireless telecommunications facilities. I went online and found some examples of drive-throughs, some really good ones. So I'm going to bring them to the workshop meeting for presentation. The contractor storage yard, I looked for some examples. There's not a lot of good examples out there. I guess the question is, how strongly do we think we need it? If we don't, we just don't do anything right now. I'll look for more examples. It's just, there's not a lot out there. Stuff that's out there is more on it based in industrial areas and stuff like that. Not in necessarily in residential areas. I still have to find an example of a good cannabis law that we have to do. Then there's the food truck law, if you think you need one. They seem to have gone by the wayside a little bit now, but I've seen some Facebook posts that people say they'll be back next year doing it again, so. Because when we had them, we had some problems. So that's where we stand. I'm hoping in November to finish all that up. And then in December, really roll up our sleeves and go chapter by chapter with all the comments back and go through it and get something approved by, so we have to extend the moratorium at the December meeting until March. So we need to, my hope is that we adopt the zoning law by March. And then we can extend the subdivision in the additional 3 months and finish up subdivision in March, April, May, be done by June, the subdivision. That's the goal.
That
Sounds doable.
doable.
Yeah. I haven't decided yet if we should just go for it and do chapter 140 or do it by articles. I think the articles may be the best way to go. It's just taking it a little more to the next step, but not going through the whole thing. So county is loving what we're doing, by the way.
Oh, they did like 10,
9.
maybe 9.
I had to recuse myself on 9 applications last night. One did not get adopted because we had one more than quorum. And I had to recuse myself, and one person voted no because she couldn't understand us counting both sides of not counting both sides of the face of the sign in square footage. She just got fixated on it. And she voted no because she just couldn't. I tried to explain it to her afterward, and she goes, "Oh, I would have voted yes." And I was like, "No, too late. You voted no."
Did they comment on the planned unit development?
On the which one?
The planned unit development?
Yes, they want us. They gave us required bonds to put the residential back in. They didn't think that
Required?
just-
Well, we can
Required?
overrule it, but that's.
We can overrule it. I think we should look at it first, but, and then the affordable housing, they're gonna reference the new housing website.
Yeah.
So, most of the other stuff was no county.
And tell them they're gonna put mail to and I'm telling Rochester.
Oh, yes, yeah. One of the board members joked that they should put a moratorium on the town of Rochester doing submissions. So, that was my buddy from Shangum who said that. Transportation Council, every year they ask for, unified planning work projects. We put in an application a couple of years ago for that 4455 study, and it's actually on their budget for next year to be funded. This is basically, we had to put together a project that we think the county should invest. It's usually a small amount of funding, like 25, 35, 150,000 kind of thing. It's a related planning project, transportation related. You can go to the UPWP page. You can download the 2023 call. I wanted to see if anybody thought we should apply for anything, if there's something that jumps to mind. They don't usually like to fund rail trail stuff because there's so many other funding opportunities for it.
Remember, at the time, Councilman Nell, Legislative Hewitt, mentioning, trying to get part of those dollars for two things. One was, some way to drive 4455 Minnewaska traffic into the town of Rochester for our trails, our, agritourism. And the other was the 4455-209 triangle, to beautify and.
That one might be more doable. I think the 4455 moving traffic is going to be included in the study because the study was from 209 all the way to 299.
Yeah.
We wrote a shared application. We wrote the application, but we shared it with Gardner. Gardner signed off onto it as well. And they're good. This came about 3 years ago when we had the influx of when the COVID first hit, and we had all those vehicles up there in Minnewaska and Mohawk. And
Minnewaska was down 1.5 parking lots.
yeah, so we whipped off this grant application and they actually funded it. So, but they haven't initiated it yet. It looks like they're going to hire a consultant this year to study it. So I think the first part would be included in that. But the second part is about beautification. I could put something together and give it a shot. I don't know how much money is available this year. I'll ask Brian. We do have a little bit of an in being on the board. One of the other ones I'm on. I'm sorry. I'm a little annoyed tonight.
With no real test, I had to cross the line.
Maybe. I don't think they'll go for it because we're not that far yet. Also, the county is taking the property that's over here. The county has accepted that parcel now. The last strategy is they're hoping to rehab the house to a 4-bedroom rental, or not 4-bedroom, but 4-unit rental, excuse me. And then I was trying to get them to give us the other piece, but that kind of fell on deaf ears because they, of course, they want back taxes. So they may put out an RFP, but they're going to involve, the town will have a seat at the table at the review of the RFP. So it's good news. Because I was worried of what might.
Yeah.
Sure. The purchase of the property, selling.
Yeah. They're surplusing the property to the Ulster County Development Corporation, which is a subsidiary that has, development corporations have different rights than government has. But on that development corporation is Ulster County, the head of the office of the Economic Development Office, and actually one of our residents is on it too. What's his name? Our buddy from that funds some of our stuff there on the airport road.
Oh, that?
Zach Kleinhandler is on that. And so the good news is that it's just not going to just go on the auction block and be sold to the highest bidder.
sewer, water.
Well, I brought that up, but the county really wants to just go to some sort of economic development.
Well,
Sewer and water.
I know,
Wasn't it?
I tried.
Talk to you. Give me numbers.
The general code update, you guys signed that for me tonight. The second part of the discussion is the general code informed me that we probably have about 12 local laws that we've adopted since they did the last update, and they wanted to do another update. But that update costs over $4,000. And I don't think it makes sense to do it now if we're gonna rewrite zoning code and be done with that in another 2 to 3 months. So I'm gonna stall them and say, look, we're still rewriting some stuff and come back to us in February or March. We do have to, they did that analysis of us back in 2020. And then COVID hit and we sort of stopped dead in our tracks. I do wanna get back with Mary Lou on that and circle back to that, because what they did is they analyzed all our codes for discrepancies, inconsistencies, and they came back with a relatively small amount, but a large amount. It was a large amount in numbers, but they were relatively minor. A word change here, a word change there. Mary Lou and I went through them originally, but there were about 40 or 50 of them that were still on her plate to look into, and I found another dozen on my plate to look into. Neither one of us had really done much that it sense, but maybe we can get all that done and then update our code next summer. Because then we'll have a fully, right now, every time we adopt a new law, I email it to them and it's on Ecode 360, but it's just a link to the new law. And then it tells you what chapter it relates to. So people can still see them, but it's not in the body of the code itself. So, but $4,000 is a bit of money. And we've got more coming, doesn't make sense to do now. Okay, adjourn the meeting in memoriam for Michael Bazinet. And by the way, his services are this weekend, I believe, knows him at Homestead. Leonard Pomelia, Anna Maria Ryan, Francis Grassi, Ethan Connor, people of Ukraine, and all suffering worldwide from the COVID-19 virus.
motion to adjourn.
All in favor?